Starting turn 15 here, and yes, I checked. I looked at the video to make sure I'm right. We see a couple of things happening. First, some fire opened up over here. Some of the cav may have shifted over yet. No. This infantry under Bernard trying to prepare itself, but we also have the artillery did some counterfire. I held off on firing back. No counter battery coming back from the Spaniards. And it was a wise idea because the Swedes ended up, after the Spaniards passed their, hey, I don't want to move, action, even though they're in make ready. This Swedish right flank infantry eventually slipped into charge, and one of the units couldn't get out of it. Some of them are kind of battered up and charged right into these guns and just disintegrated. This was the guy who had taken 9 out of 12 hits. Well, he took the other 3 from the opportunity fire that came there. But it was pretty necessary to open fire with that artillery because you just really do not want your artillery exposed like that to infantry fire if possible. These guys up here are largely frozen, but they drove away and broke this thing. Now, that may not have been that big a deal because this guy was out of command, so he was going to have to flip around and go marching back as long as he wasn't engaged. But they went and meleeed him and broke him. And that creates a bigger problem for the Catholics because they got this unit to rally, they got this unit to rally. They probably can't get them both. They're going to start getting some problems in their back areas because of that. The only Catholic make ready was down here. So we're going to be pretty much doing all the Swedes before any of the Catholics. And with only one Cav unit to protect that area, one Spanish Cav, he manages to drive away one of the Swedish Cav. But for the most part, we got 2 Swedish Cav divisions basically, or wings or whatever, in charge formation. One of them swept through, threatening the back here. Now this could have gotten opportunity fire, but I forgot to take it. It'll take normal fire there. They destroyed one of the routing units. We got this other routing unit here that this is becoming more ordered, and that knocks out this wing because their commander's gone. And the commander here is gone as well. All we got is Duke Charles left, that means. Got to figure out what to do with him. I think he can sweep this hill, to tell you the truth. With those guns now out of commission, the only question is, can he get out of received charge? Well, that totally did not go well. First of all, I sent one up here, hedgehogged this, but then he got blown back by the firepower here. But 1, 2, 3 units slammed up here. Now, I captured one gun, put it out. That's gone now. This other gun, though, did not fall. We hit this infantry with 3 Cav. They had some trouble getting up the hill. They all became formation shaken. 3 Cav hitting this thing. Every single one of them routed, and they were actually at a penalty. It was a bad attack, but once you make the decision to move up there, it's hard not to actually conduct the attack because it's safer to do to launch the melee, because you'll just bounce back routed, than it is to stand there and take the fire that thing can generate. The idea was to break it. Usually I'm used to a couple Cav hitting a flank hit, etc., taking out an infantry unit. I guess that's not so likely when you're dealing with good terrain and a very decent unit. I got some routing and stuff to do, but otherwise we're pushing forward to turn 16, check on some leaders. None of them really matter. They're just colonels. So I can just pull them back as they are. But yeah, we got this guy, and all of Duke Charles's stuff is running off the board. Well, he'll probably be able to recuperate it, but that was a painful hit. Well, we lost someone else too, this Shawalski. He was commanding that right flank. He had a routing unit that he hadn't been able to recover when charging off the map. So we got a colonel for him to replace him too. We're going into 16 here. Interesting situation because I expected the Imperials and Spaniards to get all that artillery fire coming in. Well, it all got denied to them because they lost their leader. And now they put the new one over on a routing unit again, who, you know, he might get wiped out there too. He gets a guaranteed shot to recover it, but not if it gets hit. He just can't risk it. He's got to go with something else. He'll go up here and try to defend the majority of his units, because I can't lose an activation like that. If that cav gets up here and starts, well, I don't know, because we saw what happened with this cav. But this was a bad turning point for the Catholics, no question. Bad turning point. As I look at the beginning of turn 16 here, the Swedes have a number of units in charge. The Catholics only have one. But I wanted to take a moment because this is one of those situations where I think the system kind of falls apart. Let me explain. Most games fall apart to allowing the player too much control over their units. But here what we have is this command here. With a routed unit in front of them, some cav behind them, they presumably could be taken care of by these. And now, if I activate these first, perhaps that'll happen. But I must chase that routed unit. I don't have any chance to get control of my unit. Well, I don't have to attack it, but I have to keep somebody screening it. I don't have a chance to prioritize at all in this situation. I'm not saying it should be guaranteed, not by a long shot. In most cases, I would say the cav probably would pursue that. But you have an ability to prevent a pursuit on the battlefield after the heat of an engagement. You certainly would have more of an ability to prevent the cav from engaging this routed unit. Now, this routed unit, you know, I want there to be a cost sort of for there not being a leader here, and that cost would be if I ignore this, it's just going to run off the map. I'm not sure, you know, what kind of likelihood I would assign to that, and I'm just going to play it by the rules. But it does sort of disturb me that I have to keep that screened in order to push forward. Now, I've got to launch something to hit this first, I think, because I don't want to go back against this. I want to try to slip around the backside here and try to do some havoc to that Catholic formation up on the hill. Well, I worked my way around those concerns. And that's one of the things with this system is, if you think real hard and try to figure out how to break what doesn't look right, you usually can figure out some means of doing it. In this case, yes, I did the cav charge against those Spaniards, knocked them away. They're gone. Leader taken off the map too. No pursuit there. But then the complication here, well, this infantry is the key to the whole thing. This light infantry, commanded muskets, I could leave them behind to fire at the routed unit. And I was able to move around. I was able to move around the back of this unit, hedgehog it. Then these dragoons, who destroyed that routed unit, served sort of a journeyman duty here. They did the same task against the hedgehog, holding it pinned in place so that, well, firing at it so that the rest of the units could continue on. Moved up here, hedgehog both these units. There was a unit here. And, well, then from here, because I'm not leaving being 1 hex away, I was able to launch a momentum charge, 2 units against this, destroyed the Spanish infantry, heavy infantry there. I've wrecked this corner of the line, basically. And that's where my focus is going to be. It's just destroyed. And we got a couple of dead units there from that. Now, one of the Swedish unit, cav, chased it off the map, and indeed my colonel disappeared off the map for the same reason. I don't have to track him, so I'll just put him as a dead leader. It doesn't really matter whether or not, because he's not worth any points. I still have the infantry in charge for that flank, and I want to try to get them up here as fast as possible before the Catholics can respond. Now, as fast as possible doesn't mean in charge formation in this case. And unfortunately, I was unable to get out of charge formation. I think this is their charge marker. And so they're crossing this stream, walking into villages, hopping down hills and everything. And the stuff in the front is now formation broken. I got some open order stuff, but it's kind of blocked because of this guy having had to move. This thing is reforming because it has the wing army commander or whatever sitting on it so that I can kind of ignore the orders there. Ooh, this doesn't go here. Oh, yes, it does. Yeah. He tried Trump to prevent that encirclement issue. That didn't work. So he's not going to even get a lot of reactions. Not that he's likely to with this, but he needs to get into charge to try to break, to knock those cav out of there. I think we're over here. The next thing is the make ready. And with Duke Charles running off trying to rally those poor cav that he totally misused. But really misused not too much more than the misuse here in the sense, except that this could have been very bad had I hit only with one cav. Waiting until the second cav to launch the attack was key because I got the momentum that way and I got a number of other things. Anyway, let's see what we can do with those Swedes. The Swedes only got one activation, kind of swinging this into the woods, protect against Charles, I guess. I don't know. I'm not too worried about the Imperials doing anything against this hill position. Recovered my gun there. It's now just disabled. And swung into place and fired on this. Now, this was kind of key. I managed to do some hits to this damaged unit underneath. I didn't take out the gun. The gun fired back. We'll get to that in a moment. That's what caused this morale shaking on my gun, which is going to be a penalty for firing. But the biggie is I knocked out their commander, which means they're out of command again for the turn, so they're not going to do anything. And that is the end of this turn. I've got a lot of stuff to clean up and some routes to take care of. Tricky stuff for the Swedes. First of all, I slipped this into rally, which I maybe shouldn't have done because it means they only get one rally attempt. I got to fire a couple of times in there, but basically as soon as I could get out of charge, that worked. Pumping fire into the hedgehog is kind of cool, and that's why I probably should have gone for the less likely rallying effect because I'm doing something good. But I really wanted to get these guys out of formation broken because there is still some threat. These infantry can come up, and if I'm formation broken, I can't get out of there. Formation broken still doesn't help me too much because my speed's not higher. I've got to get myself up, or formation shaken doesn't help too much because my speed's not higher. I still have to get up to a point where I can get away. And rally just doesn't do that. So if they slip into charge, I'm doomed as far as I see it. These guys had an auto rally and had to, because they were formation broken, and well, one of them was back here, and they've managed to get out of that. But again, only one action for rallying, which is somewhat problematic. Of course, Duke Charles has to decide if he wants to let those guys run away and command his units or try to rally those units. Before it looked like there wasn't going to be too much value to these guys. I'm not sure either way. I don't really like the idea of launching an attack up the hill, but that's besides the point. Going to the infantry here, they stayed in charge. Made an open order advance into here and shot the artillery out. It's gone now. It's disabled. And then they managed to do the same here. This one before it even fired. And now they're trading shots here. And they're really kind of crunching that little corner there. It's one of the dangers of artillery. You got it stacked on top. It's very, very vulnerable. If infantry can move up next to it, they can take it out. But it's the only way that you can project yourself with infantry, artillery, whatever, more than one hex away, basically. Up here on the hill, why is that formation shaking? Got a second chance to recover. I dropped myself into receive charge. Great. This is from Make Ready. That helps me improve the formation status of this, rally this artillery unit, and also, well, this guy, I can't do anything with it. And that's the point that I wanted to bring up. I can't go into charge. In some of the scenarios that we saw in the Saints in Armor game, they had this kind of clever rule, hey, if you're in a position, but defined by the scenario, you don't get affected by charge orders or whatever. You're always in command, la la la. Well, here, I'm in a position where I really don't want to come charging off the hill. So I can't launch an attack on this wing, part of the wing. And that's, again, a troubling situation with it. You can't launch, and I don't know how bad, historically, it may be that there would be special circumstances like this where you would want to keep part of your formation on the hill, but you could still launch an attack. This is really not a threat, so it's not like I'm breaking forward with my whole line. This seems like a particularly special circumstance where I just want to exert a little bit more pressure and drive them back and take a better defensive position. Can't do it. I would have had to have done it cleverly when I was, say, back here somewhere so that I could move my infantry up. But overall, hey, minor cost here. I can't exert that pressure I want to. I can't drive that cav away. But, I'm in a fairly strong position, and I can move this guy out of open order so that he's in an even stronger position defensively. So it's not a bad thing overall, I guess. What I didn't mention, and I've got to jiggle my camera every time to prevent it from, I get this whiteout on my screen. I don't know if it's just the input, but I saw one of the films from, I don't remember which thing I covered recently. My brain is so fried all the time now in terms of games. But something I played recently, the Friedland thing. One of the videos ended up with weird distortions all over it. And I'm wondering if it was because of that. Seems like jiggling this makes it fine, at least on my end, and then I haven't seen that issue again. Anyway, this artillery also fired, and it didn't have any effect on the front unit, but it hit back here and got a formation hit and shook it. The Spaniards can't fire back, or this is actually Imperial. They can't fire back because they got units underneath. They can't risk them. And we slide this forward. Hopefully I remember it. Put my die there. So that helps a little bit. Ending things up, a little bit of movement forward. These hedgehogs trying to form up into real units again. This is terrible. They just keep getting shot, and this guy's got his butt up against this cav if that ever wakes up. But, the alternative is just sitting there and hedgehog and dying that way. So, gotta try to get out of there. And then Duke Charles, well, he runs back, starts rallying his units, but he's been far enough away for long enough that the rest of his command is going to start chasing him. And that makes this whole situation kind of moot, because now I can move forward and take the position I wanted anyway. All right, up this one goes.